Hey, shh. Calm down. The show is about to start. Reese on the radio. Turn it up. Turn it up low. Turn it up loud.
It's like a dream come true.
Turn on your radio. Reese is on the radio.
Yo, let's get it.
Due to the nature of this program, discretion does not exist. It's Reese on the radio. Right now on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Are we on? Yes, we are. It's Reese on the radio. News Talk 1080 WTIC. Friday, of course, is Ladies' Night.
Oh, yes, it's Ladies' Night. Oh, what a night. Chaka.
That is correct. Mrs. on the radio will be joining me today. And I want to thank our good friend, Jerry, over at Between Rounds, whom we had dinner with last night with his beautiful family, who we talked their ears off for hours. I think we were together for about 3, maybe 4 hours. And we would not just shut up, my wife and I. We talked and talked and talked. And I could see Jerry's wife at one point just put her head behind, like, when are these people going to shut up? And I got the clue, and I was like, gosh, we've had you here for life. I didn't want to just eat and run. It just felt rude. And, you know, they hosted us, and we just went on, and we meandered on, and we talked about anything and everything under the sun. And they were so kind to us and so sweet to us, and we really appreciated it. We have no friends, so we don't know how to act when we get around company. So I want to apologize to them and how nice they were, and I hope they're continuing to enjoy their vacation. I'm saying this completely tongue-in-cheek, but they were very, very nice to us, very gracious to us. And as we left, that's all my wife and I could talk about. I was like, did we talk too much? I'm like, in my head, I'm going, of course we did. It's what we do. It's what we do. We talk. So I just, again, I want to apologize and be grateful at the same time because, again, they were so sincere and so good. And they're part of this Reese on Radio and WTIC family. So we appreciate that, how nice and kind they were. Anyway, that being said, because I know they're listening over at Between Rounds. And I'm sure they're right now listening, just going, they're probably laughing because they know that Jerry is probably calling him and says, yeah, the guy wouldn't shut up. The guy just talked and talked and talked. His wife was no help. Anyway, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. I'm totally kidding. And now that's not a slight on them. We were really judgy of ourselves because, you know, we don't know how to act. So have you ever done that, Roland, when you or your wife, like after you've gone out somewhere and then when you leave, you're questioning whether or not you said the right thing, if you had the right tone? I don't know if is anybody ever like that? I kind of feel like everyone has that in them when they see or go out to a party or hang out with a couple for the first time. They immediately start judging themselves during the drive home. I remember a famous Friends episode like that with Chandler and Monica got married and they hung out with this other married couple. And at the end, they were sort of at first very appreciative of getting to hang out with this couple and thought they were really, really funny. And then when the phone number that they tried to call to hang out with them didn't work, they immediately became critical of each other, saying that they joke too much, they talk too much. And I think that everybody gets a little nervous about that to some degree, especially if you don't do it often. Like if you don't hang out with people often, you don't know if you're, what's the term? If you're trained to be outside your own house. Roland, I was asking, I know you were on the phone. Have you ever done that where you go out with your wife and like hang out with a new couple, and when you come home or you're on a drive home, you're questioning each other about whether or not you behaved properly or you joked, didn't land or something like that? Are you ever that critical of yourselves when you leave?
We haven't hung out with a...
Really? Has it been that long?
New couple.
So even like at a party or a get-together.
A decade ago, maybe?
Say again? A decade ago?
Probably, that's when the last time we hung out with a brand new couple that was one of her friends from work and her husband.
But when you left, did you feel like, were you ever questioning between yourselves? I was like, hey, do you think I was too talkative or too chatty? Do you think I was too quiet? You never critique yourself. I think everybody feels, really? You've never felt that way?
No. It's going to be what it's going to be at the time. That's what it was.
It's all my wife could talk about on the drive home.
I mean, if they like you, they're going to invite you back, or you're going to hang out again. And if they don't,
yeah, there's no chance of this.
They're not going to call you back.
No, he did say, he sent a nice message, said, can't wait can't wait to see us again. And I thought that was gracious. Like I said, they were fun. His daughter, it was absolutely, I kind of felt like I met my match because she's just as gregarious and outgoing as I am. She's like young. She's like 20, 22 or something like that. And it's rare to see somebody that young be so interesting and interested. And I spent a lot of time talking to her. Like, she was teaching me about TikTok and about social media, things that I didn't know. And it was such a great exchange. Like, I was excited. It was one of those moments where I could sit back and listen to someone else talk about stuff I knew nothing about. And that was probably my highlight of everything. Nothing against, Jerry and everybody else, but that was the highlight for me, was learning something from a young person while she was sharing something I was unaware of, and I was sort of learning in that moment. It was good. It was just good.
I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I go to my 15-year-old daughter and how do you work this? And then she'll just look at me and laugh and and show me how to do it.
Well, will you tell her it is poor etiquette to make old people feel like they're silly?
No, I haven't told her that yet. She thinks I'm 150, so.
Goodness gracious, they do. I remember the first time I asked the kid, what do you consider old? And she goes, I don't know, 30? I was like, what is wrong with you? Goodness gracious, 30? And of course, at the time, I was like 40-something. So just like, I must be ancient to you. I'm like, how old are you? She was like, how old are you? I was like, I'm 48. She was like, wow. And I don't know if she said wow because maybe she was calling that 30, old a little too early, or she thought that I was decrepit at that point, like ancient. So
yeah, I made a new song like a couple months back, and I was like, Shania, come listen to this song. She's like, is it by you? I was like, yeah. She's like, I'm a pass.
She wouldn't give you her critique because it was by you?
Yeah, she didn't want to even hear it.
No.
Yeah.
She doesn't think you're remotely cool. That's what it is. I don't think your kids are ever supposed to think you're cool.
Some kids do.
Really? I always feel like there's a shelf life on that. Like when you're a kid, and I mean like before you start hitting double digits, you always think of your parents as cool. Right? I think especially boys. Like boys think their dads are cool about 11, 12 years old. Once they get 13, they start meeting other kids like in high school who are actually cool within their age group or within like a perimeter of their age group. And then they start aspiring to be that cool. And then you're right. Forget about it. You're out of step. It's like, it's hard to be cool when you drive a minivan. It's out the window at 12. Like,
she still thinks I'm funny though. That hasn't gone yet. She still likes my sense of humor. So.
You know what? That may be your saving grace.
Yeah.
Because if she still thinks that you're funny, that's that is like winning an Oscar.
Yeah, that's the only thing I got right now.
Yeah, and if it's not an Oscar, it's at least a Golden Globe, because it's like you're being considered for an Oscar if you win a Golden Globe. That's the way I look at it. Yeah, if they think you're funny, that's a winnable argument in the cool Olympics, because even if you're not overall cool, funny, that's key. Eric says absolutely. And dad jokes, right? Yeah, if you can make a good dad joke and the kids laugh, I'll never forget that when my kids were younger, and that's why I know this. When they were younger, we would go to Outback Steakhouse, which was the youngest one's favorite restaurant. Whenever we go out, we'd always go to the Outback Steakhouse. The thing that always drove me crazy about that was when we went, he would always ask for chicken nuggets. I'm like, dude, it's the Outback Steakhouse. Like, why would you want chicken? It's your favorite restaurant, and you ask for chicken at a steakhouse. Here's the deal, though. The sidebar was he never went there for the steak. He went there for the bread.
Yeah, the bread is good.
Yes, I thought it was pumpernickel, but somebody told me it's like honey bread or something like that. I can't remember the name of it. Maybe somebody will know. But that's what he went there for. That was his big thing. He would sit there before we even got our meal, and he would go through at least 4 loaves of that bread before we even got to our meal. But when we got to the table, they would go, Dad, tell us some jokes. And I would go, like, that was, for me, that was the highlight of our night. During the weekend. It was like family night. And the highlight of that, they would say, Dad, tell us some dad jokes. And I'm going to tell one because it's still my favorite, and they still laugh, still happy. What's a pirate's favorite letter? R. They still love it. It's funny no matter where you go. So
When you talking about that bread, that reminded me, Texas Roadhouse.
Yes.
So a couple of times we had this Jamaican bakery jerk chicken and cocoa bread or whatever. So we're eating it. And then like 3 days later, we go to Texas Roadhouse. You know, they serve the bread with it. And the cinnamon butter. And
yes.
So I'm eating it. And I look at my wife. I'm just like, this tastes oddly familiar.
Yes.
It's the cocoa bread from the Jamaican bakery.
It is absolutely, and it's funny because it's the same dough in a biscuit form as opposed to, because the cocoa bread's a little larger, like a bun, so to speak. And yes, the Texas Roadhouse brilliantly put that in a biscuit, and it is so addictive.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
When we get there, because the wife likes to go there quite often, but whenever we go there, the woman will come by, and of course it's unlimited. So the waitress will come by and she goes, "Can I bring you guys some more bread?" And we have to stop and think about it. We're like, maybe not, because we'll just gorge on that.
Half a dozen is enough. Like that's after. It's like you don't need any more than that. You gotta.
You definitely don't. Anyway, on Friday, I sans the opening monologue, probably because Friday is, it's a little more fun, festive. Try not to get too much into politics today. Of course, as you know, it's ladies' night. And we've got Mrs. on the radio joining us today, Rozan. We'll talk a little bit about the dinner in our conversation driving home. We got to get into James Comey, which I will talk about in the next break, and your phone calls as well at 860-522-WTIC, 860-522-9842. If you can understand where I'm coming from and going out with a couple and having these awkward, like these conversations after you leave about whether or not you were questioning if you were awkward, if your joke landed, if they thought you were too chatty. If that's happened to you, I want to hear from you, ladies especially. And the reason why I want to talk to ladies about this is because I didn't start thinking about it until my wife started thinking about it and talking about it. And then she said that all women do this, that they're very conscious about not just their appearance, about how they're perceived in conversation. So I'm not familiar with that. I mean, I guess as a very ego-driven kind of guy, because, I'm in the entertainment business, and we're all a little bit vain in this industry. I almost felt like I was suckered into questioning how I did. Like, how was my performance last night? It's just something I found that was very, very odd. So anyway, as I said, we're going to talk about James Comey. We're going to talk about Representative LaMonica McIver. The Justice Department has announced they're going to file charges. I also have an official apology to make to the WTIC listeners today. And that is, I was wrong. I made a prediction on this show, and I was wrong. Even though I saw this polling data, I made a prediction that now I have to retract. It is one of the rare times when I get these things wrong, and I did. And when I do, unlike the mainstream media, I've got to atone. I must atone for my misdeeds. Also, we're going to change it up today with the stupidest thing I've read today, and we're going to rename it just for today, the stupidest Negro nonsense I read today. We'll talk about that, and that'll be a part of our discussion with Rozan as well. It is a story. We have audio sound bites for that as well. So we've got all of that plus more, and let me see. I've got Democrats at the Pratt & Whitney machinist picket lines. Let me say this. Yesterday during a conversation at the end of the show, I think it was Stewart who called in. Maybe Steve, but I'm almost certain it was Stewart who called in yesterday talking about the Pratt & Whitney strikes. And he was talking about how many Democrats were showing up at the picket line. You may know that 11:30 today, my good friend and best bud, Chris Murphy, was there standing with the picketers and holding signs. If you're watching on ReeseOnTheRadio.com, you can see that sign there. I took a picture of it, screenshotted a picture of it, and I put it next to a 1968 protest. You might notice. And I thought this was odd. But if you go and see the picture, if you haven't seen the picture, go find it. It's a picture of Chris Murphy holding a sign that says, "I am union on strike." And I thought Pratt Whitney was doing something interesting here. As soon as I saw the sign, I immediately went back to the garbage strike of 1968, the African-American garbage strike. Do you remember that? So I put up that picture right next to it. It's there on ReeseOnTheRadio.com. Do you remember that when the black men who were protesting, who were on strike, they had signs that said, "I am a man"? It was a civil rights protest. And I thought it was odd that Pratt Whitney had a sign that was very similar to that "I am a man" sign. And there's Chris Murphy with his scraggly little beard. He is looking like it is looking very unkept. I'm not exactly sure what the deal is with that haircut. I mean, with that beard cut. Let me see if I had a nickname for him. Yeah, this one. This one. There it is. Come on.
Captain Caveman!
Yes, Captain Caveman. That's what he's trying to look real butch with his scraggly beard. I just don't understand it. It's like, just tighten it up. Dude, I've got the lumberjack look because my wife likes it. I'm not sure what's going on with you. This is looking unkept. Murphy, any man who doesn't defend girls in sports and girls' spaces isn't a man. Couldn't agree more, Eric. Couldn't agree more. Michael B., how you doing? So we've got that. We want to talk about that. That article came out of the CT Insider. Why do Democrats outnumber Republicans at the Pratt & Whitney machinist protest? We'll talk about that. Also, WFSB did an article today. Father of 4 accused of shooting and punching woman at funeral faces judge. This is the story about the Ida Hawkins Green funeral and Joshua Smelly, who was arrested. Now there are charges that say that Joshua swung on a 65-year-old woman. And I spoke to the reporter today, Dylan Fearon, about that today. We're going to have more details about that coming up because I'm going to be working with WFSB to get them the actual footage of that. So we'll talk a little bit about that story. So stick around for that and a whole lot more that's coming up. So stick around. James Comey and LaMonica McIver. What is now happening that a lot of people who have asked for justice are going to get. We'll talk about that on the other side of the break, so stick around. It's Reese on the radio on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
The airing of grievances.
Grievances.
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're going to hear about it.
That's right. It's the airing of Grievance Friday on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC. We will get to those grievances in a moment, plus your phone calls. Let me just talk about this real briefly before we get to those calls, because what took place yesterday at the end of the show, the last hour, I posted this. I knew it was going to be a big deal, and just like that, it was everywhere, and everyone went crazy on either side of the aisle. Of course, people on the left screaming and hollering, no big deal. People on the right saying, gotta get him. And as much as I know that I cannot play this down the middle, because I won't. There's no reason for me to. because I'm going to be accused of being a conservative. I'm going to be accused of defending Trump. So what? Literally, so what? But let's just call it as it is. Because I look at what Comey did, if I'm really going to call it like I see it, if we're really going to call balls and strikes here, let's do it. Let's do it. Donald Trump gave a speech at the Ellipse on January 6, 2021. Did he not? And in that speech, he said, I know you're going to be going down to the Capitol to peacefully and patriotically have your voices or let your voices be heard about this election. That he was upset that he lost. There is no audio of him telling them to attack the Capitol. In fact, there is a tweet that says that we are the party of law and order, go home. There are no tweets, there are no comments, there is no audio, there is no video that says that that man told people to attack the Capitol. Many people went so far as to say, well, his comments about the election being stolen gave people the battery on their back to commit the crimes that they did on January 6th. Right? Saying words like the election was stolen and stop the steal, that these things agitated people to attack the Capitol on January 6, 2021. So, I give you 8647 from the former FBI director. And I say, prosecute to the fullest extent of the law. You set the standard, you live by them. There is no audio, there is no video, there is no documentation where Donald Trump said attack the Capitol. There is documentation that he had offered thousands of National Guard to be at the Capitol and in and around Washington in the event of an uprising or people getting silly, because there was alleged to be hundreds of thousands of people there, and he wished to thwart anything that was going to be criminal by having the National Guard there, and he was refused. So he did everything. And by the way, that is documented. There's no falsehood in that. Nothing I'm saying is false, and no one can refute it. But even with all that evidence, it is still alleged that Donald Trump led a violent insurrection, their words, not mine, on the Capitol on January 6th. So the former head of the FBI writing the words or posting the letters and numbers, or I should say just numbers, of 8647. If you can make a criminal, treasonous claim of the President of the United States with no evidence of him suggesting that, then this post by James Comey should be met with the same vigor, shouldn't it? Because if it's all about innuendo, right? Donald Trump saying that the election was stolen, riling up his supporters. 8647, that's not riling up James Comey supporters. That's not riling up the American people. And you can run that whole game about Donald Trump was the president of the United States at the time. But James Comey is a hero of the left. And he has quite the megaphone. If he said something like this, if Donald Trump can go through criminal prosecution, so can Comey. And let me tell you, folks, it's happening. You can believe it or not. When there were all of these people talking about and concerned about whether or not Donald Trump was going to go after his political enemies, Donald Trump didn't say anything. His cabinet secretary said nothing. His Department of Justice, the FBI, CIA, DNI, DOJ, nothing. But James Comey just opened the floodgate. For James Comey to put this out there, this said, and I believe this, because if we can take leaps of faith, I think it's fair for me to. What James Comey did in doing this was they can't touch me, because if they do, the news media is going to rally behind me and protect me and say that they're going after their political enemies. So I can say 86, the president of the United States, and they won't put any gloves on me. Those days are over. They just opened the floodgates. This is a shot across the bow. And this is exactly what the DOJ should be doing, waiting for them to do something stupid, which you know they're going to do. And you know why? Do you know why that Donald Trump doesn't have to advance towards his political enemies? Because they're so desperate, they're so angry, they're so furious that they do it to themselves. People keep using Trump derangement syndrome. I get it. It's cute. It's a nice little phrase, turn of phrase. Love it. These folks are desperate. And when you are desperate and you have no answer, it's sort of like being in a fight when you're backed into the corner and your opponent is bigger and tougher than you, and you know deep down he's going to beat you. If you've never been in a bully situation, you're not going to know what I'm talking about. If you've never had to deal with a street fight, you're not going to know what I'm talking about. But I've been there. And I remember Hugh, I'll never forget that kid. Hugh, nice enough guy. But he was a bully. He was junior high school. And I said to myself, I've got 3 inches on him. But I really, really didn't know how to fight. And I'm scared to death. And I thought, you know what? Hugh probably knows how to fight. He wouldn't be initiating this fight if he didn't know how to. I didn't have a dad around the house to teach me how to fight. Long story. I didn't get the boxer stepdad until a little later. But sure enough, Hugh had the drop on me, and I was scared to death. And you know what I did? I just rammed him. And it was the worst decision I ever made because I had nothing left. I was desperate. I just figured I'll do anything and see if I could get a punch off. I did not. That boy put me to the ground, and it was over. I could barely walk home, and it was over. Could barely walk home because I was desperate. I figured I could do anything. Maybe I'll get maybe one flailing fist will catch him in the temple and he'll leave me alone. No, I didn't know what I was doing. And in that desperate attempt, it only did more damage to me. And that was when I knew I was going to have to learn how to fight. These people don't know how to fight Donald Trump. So they just do anything. And when you're desperate, you have no tactics, and you have no self-control, and all you are is angry, and you are motivated by your anger and your fear or whatever it is, you will do stupid things. And in that desperate tone, in that desperate state, you will do the dumb thing that will be your undoing while everybody waits patiently for you to do it. Jasmine Crockett, same deal. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Hakeem Jeffries, you notice that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was on Instagram. If you lay one finger on those people a day later, I don't know what you're talking about. I never made any threats. They were looking all tough. But then James Comey came around, and he pretty much gave everybody license at the DOJ to say, you know what? Next threat, you're going down. Next comment, next off-color remark, we're going after you the way that you came after us. And James Comey he has got to be arrested. He has got to be sent in handcuffs. I don't care if the case fails. He's got to be perp walked. Everyone is. It doesn't matter what the media says. It doesn't matter if the media is outraged. It doesn't matter if MSNBC or CNN are saying that Donald Trump's going after his political enemies. It does not matter. No one's listening to them anymore. They set the tone. James Comey set the tone. And they're going after this girl. What's her name? Rep. LaMonica McIver. Justice Department announced that they're going after her too. Showing up at an ICE facility, throwing bows like Ludacris. Throwing them bows. That's what they call you when they say you throw in the elbows, folks. For all you older folks that don't listen to hip-hop. That's what she was doing in the video. Biggie Draws was out there throwing the elbows, trying to get through the ICE agents, putting them in jeopardy. Criminal charges against them. They did this. And why? For a photo op. Why? To get clicks. Why? To end up in the papers. Why? To end up on MSNBC and CNN. ABC and CBS, because they know that those idiots were going to praise them. But they went one step too far. And they think this looks cute. They think this is rebelling. It isn't. It is breaking the law. Brazenly breaking the law. And if this administration is going to be the administration of law and order, these people have to be perp-walked. And if James Comey is in charge, two things are going to happen. One, people are going to become more brazen, and MAGA folks will no longer trust the Department of Justice, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, or even Donald Trump for that matter. Because this could not be stood for. We cannot stand for this. If Donald Trump can go through the legal process of actually saying you're going to peacefully and patriotically go to the Capitol and have his life like wrecked, dragged into courtrooms, federal courtrooms across the country, if taking home taking home classified documents that he had a right to take home, and to have the bookkeeping wing of the White House force charges against him, and then this guy comes out and says 8647 and nothing happens, hell with that. Someone has to pay for that. Somebody has put a battery on their back, people like James Comey. People have put a battery on their back and says these guys won't do nothing because we'll accuse them of going after their political enemies. Tulsi Gabbard said it yesterday on Jesse Waters' show. Yeah, we got to see him in handcuffs. Let them know. They can sit up there and talk all that nonsense about, I dare them to do it. I dare them to do it. Because they think that the political backlash is going to be what CNN reports or what MSNBC reports. That's not the case. None of those people want to go up against the federal government in a courtroom. They don't have the money. They don't have the resources. After James Comey is putting those iron bracelets, watch the temperature go down. They'll go on the network shows and they'll talk their nonsense, but watch the online political rhetoric. Watch that fever pitch all the way down. He must be arrested. He must. Right now, it's not a question of how, it's a question of when. And I think it's going to happen as early as next week. You can bank on that. And it will be on camera. Hopefully Fox News will be there. Let's take a break. We'll come back. More news, more views when we return. It's Reese on the radio on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
Are you tired of high cable TV rates? Sign up for Dish today and get a $500 bonus offer while supplies last. Plus, lock in your price for 2 years guaranteed. Call All American Dish, your Dish authorized retailer now.
800-296-1251. 800-296-1251. That's 800-296-1251.
Offers require credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and e-auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm. Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-823-5544. 800-823-5544. 800-823-5544.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, let's talk ED because millions of men experience it, but not everyone can access or afford treatments like Viagra. Well, Hims can help. Through Hims.com, you can get a full range of treatment options for ED, including daily or as-needed meds through a 100% online process. It all starts with an online intake form. Get started at hims.com/radio, and from there, a medical provider licensed in your state will determine if ED treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your medication is shipped to you for free. Find the ED treatment that fits your needs with options up to 95% less than the brand names. Millions of men experience ED, but Hims can help. To start your free online visit and save up to 95%, go to hims.com/radio. That's hims.com/radio for your free online visit. HIMS.com/RADIO.
Wesley Financial Group is not. You own a timeshare. Don't miss this important announcement from Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group.
If you receive an unsolicited phone call or mail piece to discuss selling, renting, or especially canceling your timeshare, don't fall for it. If you really want out of your timeshare, hang the phone up immediately or throw that mail piece in the trash and contact your timeshare resort or Wesley Financial Group for assistance with your timeshare. As the only Inc. 500 timeshare cancellation company, our knowledge, experience, and results has
Oh, yeah, don't forget it's Tom O'Hanlon.
for over 40,000 families we've helped get out of their timeshare. Give us a call, and I'll send you our timeshare exit information kit free with the straight facts about your timeshare and all of your options for cancellation.
Call for your free info kit. 800-384-78. 800-384-7878. 800-384-7878.
The airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're going to hear about it.
We're back. It's Reese on the radio on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC. Let's take a call real quick. Mark is in West Hartford. How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. I was just thinking when you were talking about Comey, boy, did you throw out a huge piece of chum for Tim from hand and fall in with his nonsensical response. I can't wait to hear how we counter that. Hey, listen, I know you said you might be working with WFSB.
Yes.
With the Ida Hawkins Green in that funeral. You might be wanting to ask them, like, because it's the only place I found something from Mayor Aralapalm. Remember I told you there has been nothing? So I called his office today, and he actually has a communications department, which cracks me up. There's two people that are supposed to provide statements and get back to you and everything.
Indeed.
And, you know, they did not. But the only thing I found, now you tell me if this sounds specific to what happened last Friday where there was a shooting and stabbing inside a church in Hartford. This is what he provides for. It's almost unbelievable to me that he provided this paragraph. We are still trending slightly below a year ago this time last year, and last year was the lowest number of shootings on record in the city of Hartford. While any one shooting is one too many, there's really positive momentum. We're moving in the right direction in terms of bringing down the number of shootings, and we will continue doing that work day after day, week after week, year after year. Now one part of that paragraph, does he mention the deceased? Like how horrific it was for the family, or nothing specific to this? It was a national news story.
It was?
ABC covered it. This guy says nothing about the specifics of it.
Or I'll go one step further, Mark. I'll go one step further. How about this? How about commending your police officers who stepped in?
Yeah, oh, my God. Exactly. That's never been seen before. I have a number of cops who are family members and friends, and they never even thought of anything like that even transpiring where they would have to step in as pallbearers after a horrific thing like that. That's like, it's really an anomaly.
Completely unheard of. Listen to me, that picture, the picture that you sent me on Twitter, I ended up posting on my Facebook page. It is over 50,000 views at this point.
I just can't believe that this mayor is, and again, WFSB, like if I was the reporter and he said that to me, I'd be like, okay, that's great, but can we talk about this? How do you feel about exactly what you said? The police acting as pallbearers, the family. What are we going to do to make this right? How are you going to, like this was,
yeah.
What do you, no, he's talking about retaining. And I was just thinking about what Jake Tapper did this week. I go, maybe when Mayor Arunin retires, he'll write a book about just how bad Hartford is. Right? All right. Thank you, brother.
You got it, boss man. Have a great weekend. Yeah, I was reading along as Mark was reading that quote. And I spoke to Dylan Fearon, who wrote the article, who got the quote from Mayor Arunin. And yeah, I thought that was odd. Like, why would you not? How do you not mention that? Again, as I called it, and I don't care if no one else does, it is one of the most iconic photos I've ever seen in a local newsroom. And WFSB, and that picture should have been taken, put on in every police station after the fact. It still gives me chills every time I see it. Every time it comes up on my screen, I look at it and I go, you got it. That is a recruitment tool. If there ever was a recruitment tool, that one right there, helping the community. I don't know. I find it odd. Just people miss opportunities all the time. Anyway, we got to get to our first check of weather and traffic. Of course, Jason Caterina is here. And, you know, although he travels the world and DJs for very important people, Mark Christopher's not here, so we've got Tom O'Hanlon filling in for Mark Christopher in the BPS Traffic Center.
The airing of grievances. Grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're going to hear about it.
We're back. It's Reese on the radio. News Talk 1080 WTIC, the airing of grievances. We'll have all of that for you as well. We've got the stupidest Negro nonsense that I've read today coming up. And, of course, we've got my beautiful wife.
Yes, it's ladies' night, oh, night. Chaka.
That's right, with Rozan on the radio. She's going to hang out with us as well. We'll also talk about why are Democrats outnumbering Republicans at the Pratt & Whitney machinist picket lines. I'll read that story to you. And I have an official apology to every one of you right now. A couple of weeks ago, I said that I was making an announcement that there was a leader of the Democrat Party. I had named them, and I made the case for that individual. I was absolutely certain that this individual was the leader of the party. And it was 10 years too late, and it was foolhardy for Democrats to choose him, but they had, and I sat here on the show and said, that's it, no argument. Well, I've come back to apologize. I was wrong. I was 100% wrong. And I'm going to do something that the mainstream news media cannot: apologize. Please forgive your humble host for getting this one incorrect, because the Democrats have spoken. And they do have a new leader, and it's not Bernie Sanders. It is not. Let me read. Voters looking to the future for the Democrats consistently view New York Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as the face of the party, with one new poll finding people would choose Ocasio-Cortez or no one. Yes, folks. It is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or no one. Democratic or left-leaning voters have said they felt demoralized since President Donald Trump won the presidential election in November, feeling like there is no clear message from Democrats or major pushback against the current administration. However, voters do seem to agree that Ocasio-Cortez represents the Democrat Party well. In a coefficient survey of roughly 1,400 voters, 26% said that they view Ocasio-Cortez as the current face of the party, the largest consensus among respondents. Another 26% said no one served as the current face of the party. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or no one. Let's get another check of the weather and traffic.
The airing of grievances. Grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're going to hear about it.
We're back. It's Reese on the radio. News Talk 1080 WTIC. In the chat room, Stevie V. Steven, I know that that's not your name, but I'm calling you that because when I saw your post, I was like, oh, we'll refer to him as Stevie V. Stevie V says having AOC is as good as having no one. I agree, Stevie. He also writes, Reese, instead of Bernie Sanders, they would be better off with an aardvark from the Pink Panther. They sound the same, but the anteater makes more sense. Good point. Bob has joined us. He says, Trump is all smoke and mirrors. Foreign leaders thinks he's a joke. At the end of his term, his claim to fame will be getting rid of DEI and any reference to Black history. Yeah, Bob, stick around. You're gonna love the next break. You're gonna love it. Yeah, I know you're gonna love the next break. So I'm glad you're here. You're a little late, and I never understand this, but we've had a Black president, and my show starts at 3. So as a black person, try to show up on time. You know, CPT doesn't work here, okay? Show starts at 3. Showing up at 4 is casually late. This is not a so-called accepted black behavior anymore, okay? So get your butt here in on time. We don't accept people showing up late. You're better than that. Do better. We go to the phones. Steve is in Waterbury. How are you, Steve?
I'm doing well, Reese. I got 4 things. When Clint Eastwood did the empty chair thing, remember that routine?
Never forget it, 2012.
That might as well be AOC there. But my advice to you or anybody, when you're in a fight, never lead with your head. Don't ask me how I know this.
I learned the hard way, my friend. Let me tell you something, Steve. Listen, I charged him with my head down and my fist flailing above me. And he scooped me up, lifted me up in the air, and brought me down on the concrete on my knees. My knees hit the concrete at such velocity, I could not get, my knees were so bruised and so pained by the way he dropped me. I couldn't get up. My sister and a friend of mine had to literally walk. They had to work as crutches for me to get home. That's how bad it was.
Hey, I got 2 more things. I got something on Comey, but before I go there, when they say about going after political enemies, to me that's like another card. It's like get out of jail free card.
Indeed,
like the race card or the Christian card. Like you say yourself you're a Christian, and it's like I got you.
Yeah.
But as far as Comey, I got some information that may or may not be true. I understand this happened in California, over in Compton. He found a nice place between the Crips and the Bloods, and he was practicing his gang signs. And I understand it was Corn Pop was doing Biden a favor by putting that in the sand.
Goodbye. Get out of here.
Goodbye. Have a good weekend.
You got it, boss man. Have a great weekend. White Mike is joining us in Florida. How are you, sir?
Hey, man. So I think you and I can agree that popular culture has become more crass and perverse and damaging as time has gone on, correct?
Yes, absolutely. I think the permissible or the acceptance, if you will, of this behavior and not calling it out and saying that criticizing it is shaming said behavior has allowed it to run amok, because that's what happens when you permit it. People say, how far can we go?
All right. So in the last few years, I've had to hear Cardi B rap about her drippy undercarriage and watch it become a peak media event. I saw Lil Nas X perform homosexual acts dressed up as the devil.
Right.
And that was on every streaming service, right?
Indeed.
That had blanket coverage. Kanye West puts out one song and they shut him down. He's not on streaming services. Do you think if his song was called Hail Satan, that Apple Music and Spotify would block it?
Nope. It is. Listen, and I'll tell you right off the bat. I listen to reaction videos. I don't know why, but I listen to reaction videos of his new song, and we're just not going to name it here. But I just watched them, and the reaction has been, at best, hard to understand the praise. I don't like the song. I don't know why people are calling it fire. I don't know why people are calling it good. I don't have any idea. But I will tell you this about Kanye West, and I think that that's the point. I think Kanye West is pushing the envelope for the exact reason you're talking about. I wouldn't be surprised that Kanye's next interview doesn't bring up Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion's hit record that allowed her to interview the then president of the United States, Joe Biden. I mean, she was loved by the left.
Well, and this is the kind of the definition of a self-own. I mean, Kanye, for the past, couple of years, has been saying that a certain ethnic group controls the entertainment business.
Right.
He says, they've ruined my life. They tell me what to do. They took down Michael Jackson. They're blah, 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 right? So what's the response when he makes a song that pisses them off?
Those same people intervene to then do the exact thing that he said he did, and no one takes notice to it. Look, I said it before. It was, and again, here's the other part that, again, people must understand. While that's happening, college campuses where people are screaming from the river to the sea is being viewed by the left as acceptable free speech, while Kanye's being demonetized and demonized. I mean, the hypocrisy knows no bounds.
And the media must be freaking out because the dynamic has changed. The power dynamic has shifted for artists because you don't need a record label now.
Exactly.
You need social. Kanye has like 1.5 million followers on X, and Elon lets him put this video on X. He wouldn't have sold 1.5 million downloads.
That's true. I could agree with that. But
so they can scrape up enough money to print a few vinyl records for the physical media people. It's all profit. They don't need the labels. And the media, the mainstream media, the old guard are panicking because they can't control the message now.
Sure enough, can't. Exactly. I think that's the crux of all of this.
Yeah, and we're just about to find out what free speech means.
Indeed.
Is it the traditional meaning that we just can't call for violence and sedition?
Right.
Or are we going to have rules about what you can and can't say? And
yeah, it's funny. I just saw that. Someone was talking. I can't remember who it was, but I saw it this morning. Maybe it was J.D. Vance. I think it was J.D. Vance that said, people are being very ignorant to the fact that what's happening in UK is on its way into the United States if we're not careful. Because a lot of people believe that Europe, the UK, sets the standard for the United States, and there are a lot of globalists who wish to do that. It's how we got smart cars. So the European model will come here.
Isn't it funny, though, that it's totally okay to see rap videos with young black men waving guns around and shooting each other and stuff and all this perversion, but some things are not okay. So what do they want you to see?
Exactly.
What do they want black people to do? They want to keep black people down.
That's right. And you're 100% right. Thank you, sir. Always appreciate it. Yeah, it's an interesting, like I said, it's one where the Kanye West song is completely demonized. It is, and they're arguing for guys like Mahmoud Khalil. And they're doing it in the same vein. Like, it's like at the same time. I don't, and it's amazing to watch. I said this 1,000 times. Kyrie Irving posted a video that was on Amazon talking about the so-called black Jews or Israeli, I don't know what they were called, black Israeli, I don't know what they're called. But anyway, he puts up this video that's available on Amazon. He's condemned. People are calling for him to be removed from the Brooklyn Nets. At the same time, it couldn't have been 6 months. Protesters at college universities screaming from the river to the sea, and the news media ripping Kyrie Irving, celebrating the free speech of the protesters at Columbia. It was insane to watch. It still is. It's still crazy to watch. I don't understand it. Anyway, so why do Democrats outnumber Republicans at Pratt & Whitney machinist picket lines? And many Republicans are saying, what are you going down there for? For what reason are you being seen on camera at a picket? And there are plenty of guys who are out there striking for real who were laughing at the politicians who are showing up. One of our listeners just said that her nephew is one of the picketers, and he says he sees these politicians and he can't help but laugh at why these people are here. And I don't understand why they're here. According to the report, in fact, let me say, the list of Republican elected officials who have gone to the picket lines are much shorter. It might have only been one person. This disparity highlights contrasting views on the strike. Democrats who have visited the picket lines outside Pratt & Whitney's plants in East Hartford and Middletown argue that they should take an active role in backing workers' push for a better contract from the jet engine maker. Republican leaders in the state legislature countered that that they are sympathetic to the machinist concerns. And they question whether showing up at the picket lines is the most effective way to show support. Julie Kushner of Danbury says, I think they're out of touch with the people. Really? Really? You think they're out of touch because they won't show up? Everybody, look, if you think this is retail politics, it sort of is. But if you really care about these workers, there's legislation to do that, which is, of course, what the Republicans are talking about in this article. I think it's troublesome that you got elected officials taking a side with labor, really for a photo op. I just don't think that's our role. This, according to Representative Steve Ware. He's the ranking House member of the Labor and Public Employees Committee. He says, I think our role as legislators is to stay neutral. Our role is to support the policies which are going to create a greater economy or a stronger economy, which is what they should be doing. They should be doing the thing that actually affects what they're striking. But going down there for a photo op, everybody knows what this is about. They lost the working class. That's why Chris Murphy, who normally has got no time to deal with Connecticut issues, showed up a day late and $1 short. Showed it up in a pair of nice dress shoes. Went out there holding a sign. Marching with his brethren. Let's go to Mike in Hartford. How you doing, Mike?
Hey, I think that all Jewish people should be able to call Kanye West the N-word hard R. Don't you?
No, they should. Listen, I'm telling you, I have absolutely
should be given a free pass on this.
No. Hear me out. I understand everybody's outrage about this song. I understand everybody's outrage about everything that Kanye is doing. But remember, I'll even go so far as to say this, Mike. Let me go so far as to say this. I've never, ever petitioned people who feel the way that you do. But the way that I look at Kanye West, and just as the way I look at what you just said, I understand that to me is walking over a tightrope over the Grand Canyon. Whatever happens to you, you have to suffer. You can't complain about what the backlash is. If you want to do that person that does that, you just have to understand that there are people who are going to be okay with it, and there are people who are not going to be okay with it, and you have to suffer the backlash and make no argument. Because the thing that I'm not understanding is that people want the first part but don't understand the part that comes after the fact.
Well, I'm not advocating that Jewish people should just be able to throw the N-word around willy-nilly. Right. I just mean, especially since supposedly they control so much of Hollywood, anybody that's Jewish should just get a pass for this one guy. Just one person should be able to be referred to as the N-word with the hard R, just because that's what he wants free speech to be.
Right.
And it seems perfectly reasonable that throughout all Hollywood, that's how he should be. Not Yeezus, not Kanye West, but he should just be referred to as the N-word hard R.
Wow. Hey, like I said, if that's what they want to do, like I said, your free speech is your free speech. Your consequences are not your own. Unfortunately, you can control your speech, right? You have absolute access to your speech.
Which is it, though? Do the Jews control all of Hollywood? I mean, if they do, they should be able to get away with it, right?
You would think they would.
I mean, that's what he's advocating.
Listen, like I said, I think it's a great point. If I'm going to test the theory, let's test the theory. Thank you, Mike. I got to take a break. Let's get back to the weather and traffic.
Stay locked in. Reese on the radio is on WTIC News Talk 1080.
And in a couple of minutes, we will talk about a story that I didn't think was going to come back, but it, of course, is an act of desperation. And with Donald Trump in the White House and Republicans in control of the House and Senate, the only likelihood that people have was to bring race back into the conversation. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, but only because, like I said, I would have never talked about this story, but I went to 3 places, and these stories were thrown at me. So I guess, okay, it's got some legs. So it is to be talked about. And I'm sure the conversation is going to happen here in Connecticut. And when I say it's going to happen here is because this is that last-ditch effort to get people on your side. When you are desperate to get people on your side or to say that you care about them, you go for the usual sort of platitudes. Race is in that list. Of course, you always talk about gender, women's rights, but again, they really, really can't touch now because they're supporting men in women's sports. They can't really define a woman. So race is always the fallback. And this is usually the tactics of intellectually lazy people. But a woman by the name of Summer Lee, Representative Summer Lee, is rehashing old legislation. And that legislation, they are not shy about. It intends to cost taxpayers up to or upwards of $14 trillion in reparations. We're going to play the audio for that in a little bit, but I'm going to break down the audio and I'm going to break down the argument about reparations in a way that you can have this conversation with people who bring it up, with your children, your loved ones, and even some of you who are African-American or Latino or whatever your cultural background may be. If you've had this conversation with people or people have brought it up and you exactly don't know how to have the conversation or to counter what they think or how they feel about it, I'm going to help you do that. I'm trying very hard to have, and I know, let me say this before we go to a break for weather and traffic. It is a consensus on the left and a consensus in many of these black blogospheres or ecosphere, whatever it may be. It is not to be challenged when it comes to reparations. It is, and you must. And I have never accepted that. So when we come back, I'm going to play the audio of Summer Lee, Representative Summer Lee. I'm going to parse her words to ask very pertinent questions, very important questions to her little tirade. And then I'm going to go one step further. And how I'm going to go one step further is asking those who wish for reparations why they won't do one thing in order to get them. Because they can do it, but they have not. And I'll explain why when we get back. So stick around for that. Let's get another check of the weather and traffic with Jason Caterina with weather. And Tom O'Hanlon is in for Mark Christopher in the BPS Traffic Center. Don't miss this. We'll be back in less than 5.
The airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're going to hear about it.
If you want to air a grievance, give us a call at 860-522-WTIC, 860-522-9842.
I look that stupid? Yes, you do. Stupid as can be.
This could very well be the stupidest person on the face of the earth.
Dumb. The stupidest thing I read today is Negro nonsense. And it is. It is absolutely the dumbest thing I've ever heard because this argument is over. It is. It's over. And if it isn't, I'm going to help end it. Representative Summer Lee saying we have to spend $14 trillion for reparations.
So let's make it clear. There is a debt that does exist. This country has taken so much from black folks and has a debt it owes because for over 400 years into this very day, this country has stolen black labor, black lives, black futures. Industries were built and maintained through the subjugation of black people in this country, and wealth was built and maintained through the discriminatory policies that still plague us to this day. And to be clear, some people directly benefited from it or are direct beneficiaries of it. We have systems that create and perpetuate imbalances in our society, and you either benefit from it or you are disenfranchised by it. And Black people continue to be disenfranchised and harmed by these systems.
Now, again, as I told you earlier, it is their way or the highway when it comes to the argument of reparations. You cannot dispute it because Black people told you they're owed it. There's no discussion. None. Now, I wonder whether or not these people understand basic economics because, of course, who do they wish to pay reparations to Black people? The government. Now, either these people don't understand how government works or they don't care. I agree that it probably is a blend of both because government is a zero-sum game. They get their money from us, from the taxpayer. And in essence, whatever those reparations would be, they would be paid by us. Saying that it's the government is using an ignorant tactic, or there are many people who are ignorant to the fact that that money is ours. And the government doesn't get to dole out our money. This is the reason why reparations has never been paid in this country, no matter how many so-called Black presidents apologize for it. They understand whose money this is. It's not theirs. It is ours. And they are supposed to do the will of the people. And unfortunately, for 12% of the population, that is not the will of the people. It just isn't. And some people are going to have to come to grips with that. But I want to play this again, and I want to parse Summer Lee's words because no one has got the guts to break this down. They just let them speak. They hold press conferences, and the news reporters will never ask her about her words. So I will tell you how this should go when these folks have a press conference for people who have the guts to push back.
So let's make it clear. There is a debt that does exist. This country has taken so much from Black folks and has a debt it owes because for over 400 years into this very day, this country has stolen Black labor, Black lives, Black futures.
Okay. The country has stolen Black labor, Black lives, and Black futures. Specificity, please. The country stole the labor. Tell me how the country did. Because I know individuals had slaves. I know individuals used those Black slaves to enrich themselves. Indentured servants were not paid. The country did not do that. People did. So tell me how the country did that. Tell me how they took those Black lives. Tell me how the country did that. Everybody, everywhere. Tell me how California did it. California had no slaves. Tell me how California took Black labor for nothing, took lives, took futures. You can't. Let's litigate this.
Industries were built and maintained through the subjugation of Black people in the
Industries were built and maintained through the subjugation of Black people? What industries? Specificity matters. What industries were built and maintained? Was it the entire industry? Was it every person in that industry who was in that industry? Did they all play a role? What specific companies in that industry were the ones that were built and maintained? Do they still exist today?
This country in wealth was built and maintained through the discriminatory policies that still plague us to this day. And
the wealth that was built and maintained through the policies that plague us till this day. Which ones? Can you point to them? Can you explain them? They never can. They speak in such platitudes and vagueness. They couldn't tell me. Tell me the policies that ensure that wealth is maintained through those policies. Which ones has ensured that non-Blacks stay wealthy?
To be clear, some people directly benefited from it or are direct beneficiaries of it.
You should be able to name them. You should be able to name the people who benefited from it or people who are direct beneficiaries, their heirs. You should be able to name them. Who are these people? Who are these individuals? Who are their family members who are alive today?
We have systems that create and perpetuate imbalances in our society, and you either benefit from it or you are disenfranchised by it. And Black people continue to be disenfranchised and harmed by these systems.
So you should be able to explain who they are. You are so confident that you know all of these things, you should be able to lay them out. Now, let me get to how you should deal with this. And I challenge any civil rightser, any reparations radical to answer one question for me. Why haven't you taken the federal government to court? You can sue the government. Anyone can. Why has there not been a case brought against federal or local governments? Why hasn't a case been levied towards those individuals? If the country or the government was responsible, why not? I can file a lawsuit. I can file a class action lawsuit. You can do it for mesothelioma. Camp Lejeune's got a class action lawsuit. Who do you think they're suing? My wife has got a settlement from one of these earplug companies where, I mean, we're talking tons of veterans who actually got a piece of a large settlement. Who do you think they sued? This is the most egregious act by our federal government. Why has no lawsuit been lobbied? The answer is simple. It's whether or not people have the guts to say it. So let me do it for you. You don't have a case. You don't have a case, and you know it. You seek reparations through bullying, through condemnation. You think that you're going to get reparations through a very well thought out and effective PR campaign. You are going to shame people to giving you something. But I say, challenge accepted. Go to court. Ask any one of them, as I just did, as I just laid out here with Summer Lee, break down to me the egregious acts by the country that you can hold us accountable to. Lay it out line by line. Tell us who the bad actors are. Tell us the people who benefited. Tell us the people who got money. Tell us the people who enriched themselves. Lay it out. You got to do it in a mesothelioma case. You got to do it in an asbestos case. You got to do it in the earplug case that my wife was involved in. You got to go to a courtroom. You got to get in front of a judge, and you got to explain what they did to you. It's like any other lawsuit. You go there and you lay it out. Why hasn't anyone? What? We've had 400 years, hasn't we? Haven't we? We've got 400 years of evidence. Why hasn't anybody laid it out yet? Bit by bit by bit, and we got history everywhere at our fingertips. What are you going to mention the Tulsa riots of Black Wall Street? Tell me how you're going to get everybody a paycheck there. Oh, and by the way, how did that lawsuit work? How'd that go? Did they lose? Yes. Yes. And that's the whole deal. See, you should be able to hold somebody responsible. If you're certain of this, you should be able to make your case, lay out your case, and do it in a court of law. And you should be able to get, I'm pretty sure you can get a sympathetic judge to hear your case. Probably, give you a verdict on your behalf. I'm sure you can find some person out there, some judge out there who's sympathetic to your cause. Get that guy to hear your case. There's a federal judge that would love to get you reparations, but you won't bring the case. Where's Benjamin Crumb? Isn't he an attorney? That guy got money for Freddie Gray and Michael Brown and Trayvon Martin. This guy got millions of dollars for those folks. There's your legal representation right there. I mean, sounds like he has marbles in his mouth, but obviously he's a pretty good litigator. Cities are just throwing millions at this guy. And you know he gets a cut. But never once has Benjamin Crumb ever sent you an email, text you, and said, hey, brothers, hey, sisters, why don't y'all join me on this class action lawsuit against the American government to get us our reparations? You ain't heard one word. Because you'd lose. Because you have no evidence to support how you deserve reparations for something you never did. You never witnessed. You never overcame. Because if we open up that floodgates, I'll go so far as to say, you know what? Hey, was your daddy a drug dealer? Hey, was your uncle a drug dealer? Maybe your sister was. Let me go find somebody in my family who may have been subjected to your drug dealing, subjected to your bad behavior. Maybe you owned a store. Maybe you owned a business that harmed my family member. Perhaps I should go after you. Perhaps I should go after, what? If you made a ton of money in a business and you are the heir of that business, if your family did my family member wrong, I should be able to sue you. Why not? That's the reason why you're never, ever going to get it. That's the reason why you're only going to get these press conferences with a bunch of idiots standing behind them holding up signs, thinking in some way outside of getting the ridiculous press that you get with these adoring and fawning and tongue-bathing media types that will cover that story. You're never going to get anywhere. You think that this is a bully tactic. We are going to bully them and shame them into giving us money, and it doesn't work. That's called extortion. And all you have to ask them, do it all day, every day. Somebody asks you, why aren't you bringing up a lawsuit? Everybody else does. I mean, we sue the crap out of anybody for everything. Why can't we sue for this? Clearly, there's enough evidence, right? You're so certain of it. Why hasn't there been a class action lawsuit? Why hasn't every African American asked for one of these lawyers to get them in front of a federal judge? Because they can't provide a stitch of it. And they can't in any way take 48 million people and align them to whatever grievance they're trying to get compensation for. Hell, at least in mesothelioma and in asbestos cases, it's the actual family members of the person who was stricken with the disease. Slavery was a different one. It's a lot of difficulty. Ask those folks in California. They were going to go so far as to get DNA tests for the black people in California to actually find a lineage to an actual slave in order for them to get a dime. And once they found out that, ixnay on the reparations day. Sorry, folks. You can't litigate it. You can't sue because you can't prove it. Sorry. I know it hurts, but it's a fact. You can't prove who's liable, and you can't prove that you were affected. You can say it, but you can't prove it. And proving it is what matters. Remember what Denzel Washington said? It's not what you think. It's what you can prove.
The hour that packs a punch. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC News Talk 1080.
All right, top of the hour. We are back here. It is time for...
Yes, it's ladies' night. Oh, what a night. Chaka Khan.
That's right, Chaka Khan. None other than Rozan on the radio is hanging out with us. And actually, I'll put her on the Rozan cam, which... for some reason, I can't do. What am I doing here? Some reason it's not working. I don't know what the deal is. All right, there she is. She's hanging out. She's looking a little weird, like her head is like sitting back. Just sit. There you go, babe. You're all right. Anyway, Reese on the radio. Rozan is here. We're going to talk about our excursion last night and the conversation that we had on the drive home. She's got this look on her face where she's immediately embarrassed. She's already, I never tell her, I'm sorry, let me put your mic on. Yeah, it's like, why do I keep doing this to you?
No, why do I keep doing it? Like, I keep showing up.
Well, you should show up. The point is like, look, we have real conversations here, and this is sort of like a couple thing that I don't remember ever experiencing this, and let me tell you why. I talked about it at the top of the hour. My ex-wife and I used to do a lot of entertaining in the sense of, well, I shouldn't say entertaining, going out to events where there were celebrities. And, from everything from Russell Simmons, 50 Cent, Montel Jordan, the guy who sings This Is How We Do It, stuff like that. Plenty of celebrities, DMX, of course, as you know, that I was a publicist for. So I would be in these situations with her, and she would say something off-putting. Let me tell you this actually, maybe I should tell it because it's too long of a story here. There is a story that I haven't told. Maybe I did tell it, but there's a story that I haven't told about my ex-wife and 50 Cent that I thought was going to get me killed. And I don't think I've ever told this story on the air, but it turned out to be a funny thing. It turned out to be a funny thing. We actually, we left the event unscathed, but at the moment that it happened, I thought I was going to die. That's how bad it was. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Rozan on the radio is here, hanging out with us for Ladies' Night. And, of course, your phone calls, 860-522-WTIC. Let's get another check of the weather and traffic with Jason Catarina and Tom O'Hanlon, who's in for Mark Christopher in the BPS Traffic Center.
Reese on the radio is getting ready to drop some knowledge
on
WTIC News Talk 1080.
Let's not go nuts. Reese is really not known for dropping a lot of knowledge. My knowledge of things that I will do. We've got Rozan in the house, or as I like to call her, Rozan on the radio is hanging out with us during the show. And we talk about a lot of things as they happen in our lives, and I always find them interesting. And on the drive home last night, we were hanging out with Jerry from Between Rounds and his family. And I was saying at the beginning of the show, if you're just joining us, that rarely, when you have two people who do not go out very often, and it is safe to say, Rozan, we don't have friends.
No, we are each other's friends.
Yeah. So, and we are not, I don't think that we are very domesticated when it comes to going out with other couples. And we have our own way of doing things, and we write our own rules. So we behave. We're real people. We behave outside as we do on the inside.
I think we're used to being the center of attention. Like, you're the center of my attention all the time, and I'm the center of your attention. So when we introduce other people, it's kind of like, oh, yeah, there's other people watching.
Yeah. And this was one of those events where, so after we hang out, and we were there for about 3 hours, having dinner, talking, we had a great time. But you can't help, and I've noticed this, a lot of people, it's funny because last night I was thinking of the Friends episode where Chandler and Monica are going on, I guess, their honeymoon, and they're coming back from their honeymoon, and they met this other married couple, and while they were coming home, they were talking about how great this couple was and how well they got along. Then they called them when they got home and got the wrong number, and they immediately thought they were ghosted, and they immediately became critical of their own behavior. Right. So they went from being very celebratory about meeting this couple and then thinking this couple had ghosted them because they were too obnoxious, told too many jokes and stuff like that. So on the drive home, Rozan was like, was I okay? Was I all right? And I wasn't thinking that. I was just being myself. And so for the rest of the night, I'm saying to myself, well, gee, I wonder if we were, did we talk too much? Did we, were we a little too... Gregarious, yeah. And, did we speak for too long? Did we hang out for too long? But you actually started this. I know you said, and I don't want to bring up what brought that to your attention, but now you got me...
Sorry.
Thinking that... starting to be concerned. You made me self-conscious,
right.
which lets me know what kind of brain I've got going on, that I can be easily influenced by you because I trust you. Sorry. And then I'm going through the entire night in my head going, okay, was this right? Was this not a good joke? But is that something regularly that you go through? Because we've been out other times with other people. Do you do that all the time? Do you question?
I do. Just because, of the way that, things have transpired for me in the past.
Right.
My previous husband was a commissioned officer in the United States Army. I was a junior enlisted soldier. We were not in the same unit, not even in the same component.
Right.
So there was no fraternization there. But I always felt more comfortable hanging out with the Joes, and I was supposed to be being an officer's wife. He was an XO, the company XO, and I was more comfortable hanging out with the Joes, as we call each other, junior enlisted guys, and you know that always.
So you may your peer group may have been a little more crass.
Perhaps less refined. I don't know
Okay.
about crass, but definitely less refined. We're normal people, you know, we live in a different world than a commissioned officer. And so, you know, there was always contention after an event where, you know, it's going to sound so terrible. He was perpetually embarrassed by me. And it didn't matter what we were doing, where we were at. I mean, even it got so bad at the end of, you know, like the last few years of the marriage where, I mean, he wouldn't we'd be walking around D.C. in the streets and he'd be like 10 paces ahead of me. He did not want to be seen with me. It was very difficult for me to, and I'm raising his children.
Yeah,
you know.
so that would make you self-conscious. I totally
self-conscious,
get that. That makes complete sense.
And I lived that way for 20 years. So, you know, here we are, you and I married for a few years. I love what you do. I'm very proud of you. I want everybody to see how amazing you are. And, you know, that little nagging is always in the back of my head. Like, you know, what did I do to embarrass you? Or how did I blow this whole thing up for you? And
right.
That's always
the only thing that we got out of it was me turning around going, okay, did I do well? Was I all right? But let me tell you, and what made me think about it was, as I mentioned before the break, so it's myself and the ex-wife, we're together. And again, I am absolutely elated at how, like, I'm not a celebrity, but I get to be around celebrities. So I kind of feel like I'm in
celebrity adjacent.
Yeah, I'm feeling like I'm getting a backdoor into the celebrity world that I've only seen on television. And so we go to this label event, and sure enough, 50 Cent is there. And his people know me as other people's do. They know what my personality on the radio, and we're there. And my ex-wife is a jeweler. So she does, she can appraise. She's an appraiser. So she can look at jewelry and tell you whether or not it's real, it's fake. And in her purse, she happened to have the tools to find out if your jewelry was real or not. Mm-hmm. So in a hip-hop environment, these are not useful tools. Because as you might know, and many people may know, a lot of these rappers get such garbage jewelry. And my wife at the time always talked about that. She would look at it and just go, that's not good. I don't know if that's, actually, worth the price of admission. Anyway, so famously 50 Cent had this bracelet on, and my ex-wife was eager to get her hands on it to see what it was worth. And she looks at him and says, hey, can I look at your bracelet? And his response was some random woman asking him for the bracelet. And I'm standing there and he's looking at me and I'm just like, my wife. And he's like, oh, okay. And he looks at it. I said, she's a jeweler. So he looks at it and she looks at it and she pulls out one of her devices and looks at it. And her famous line was, and I've told this story before, she famously looked at him and she says, oh, baby, that's just Snapple glass. Yes. She called his expensive piece of jewelry Snapple glass, which is a term I often used about fake jewelry. And when she said that, and I immediately looked and I went, we're dead. They're going to kill us. We're going to be murdered in this nightclub because she didn't sell that. And it went off, and 50 was this is the reason why I love him. To this day, he is one of my favorite people in the world, not rapper, people in the world. His response was epic. His response to that was, I knew it. And he laughed about it, and we had a good laugh. And the night was, but it was one of those moments where, as you were talking about with your ex, where we went, driving home, and in my head, I kept saying to myself, that could have ended up badly. Don't you know that that's not something that you do? I realized that in that moment, I was being incredibly selfish because I was only worried about my own reputation and not understanding that even if she had done something like that, it's still my job to defend her. right? I've still got to stand up for right, no matter how hairy that got. So when you mentioned it, the first thing that ran to my mind was
Snapple glass.
Snapple glass. And I love that, the fact that I can draw on those experiences, because the first thing I thought to myself was, absolutely not, sweetheart. And even if you did, I've got your back. It's like, no, it's you and I. If I'm never gonna be that guy that's gonna make you feel, even if you were, I was never gonna make you feel like you ruined the night.
Are you trying to make me cry on camera?
No, I'm
so
just
sweet.
saying.
Thank you.
That's the point. Yeah, and Bob is, or Keone, I should say. Keone is in the chat room. He said, let's get the exes on the show.
We've been there, honey. You're like a day late and a dollar short.
Day late and a dollar short. That's already happened. We've already had the ex-wife on the show. So thanks for joining. You're obviously new. And her name is Rozan, not Roxanne. Obviously not paying attention to the show. Stevie V says, damn, I'm glad that she was not a urologist.
Or a proctologist.
Yeah, that could have ended. That could have ended badly. So yeah, I'm glad it didn't. It didn't go left. In the sense of, but I was teasing today that Jerry's family would probably, we talked their ears off.
They're probably going, we are never talking to those people again. We're gonna get ghosted.
But they were gracious and they were kind enough to us, and I thought it was kind enough to spend the time with us and to I guess the best way to describe it is they humored us with every story that we told and every anecdote that we brought up. And I was mentioning his daughter, who was absolutely a delight.
I really liked her. Yeah.
You did, right?
Oh, she was she's going places.
Absolutely.
She really is.
Without a doubt. Yeah. And she's got this, I almost feel like I'm not going to talk about what she does for a living, but I almost feel like the job that she has is not like where she's going to be. She is bigger than she's bigger than life.
It's kind of like Ken, what's his name? Ken Jeong, the actor.
Yes.
He's a doctor.
Yes.
And Mayim Bialik, right?
Yeah.
Like an actual neuroscientist. These people are like, entertainment.
Yeah.
She's just got this natural presence about her. You can't help but look at her, and then she starts talking, and that smile, and just you want to hear more of what she has to say.
Yeah, I sat there most of the day. She was telling me about what she did for a living. I could barely understand any of the stuff she was talking about.
Extremely intelligent.
Very intelligent. I knew nothing about it, but nonetheless, I was absolutely captured by her telling about her story. Nothing against Jerry's son, but he is a very laid back guy, so he just kind of
which
as brother and sister.
Because it's like the perfect balance. But I agree. Like, she could have read the phone book to us. She could have read like Webster's dictionary, but just her personality, just how engaging she is. And it's just, she could have said pretty much anything.
Yeah, you and I walked away from that saying like how absolutely amazing they were.
And I'm walking away going, God, I'm a terrible guy. I'm so boring.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with them. So again, I really appreciate Jerry for Between Rounds for doing that with us. It was very sweet of them. So anyway, when we come back, don't forget we got the last but not least caller of the day. So if you want to call up and win a dozen bagels a month for 6 months, courtesy of Between Rounds, give us a call at the end, near the end of the show at 860-522-WTIC, 860-522-9842. We'll make that happen for you. In talking to Jerry, we also had a conversation about the dozen bagels a month for 6 months. We're going to do something interesting. I'm hoping he and I were having a conversation about that. Like, I didn't think we were going to do some shop talk, but of course that always ends up happening. So we did do some shop talk about Between Rounds, which was a great story. It's a wonderful story that a lot of people should hear. And their operation is amazing. Let me tell you this, a little background. His father and his brother had started Between Rounds in Hoboken, New Jersey. And it's so funny when he told that story about them being in Hoboken. He says that his father and his brother, once they opened up the bagel shop there, the lines were out the door. And I said to him, like, who would have known? And I said, New Jersey and bagels? There was a bagel shop across the street from my house. And I had to get there an hour before they opened because once you got there afterwards, the line was down the block. And I lived across the street.
Did you by chance mention that they brought us bagels?
They did. That's right.
Which is amazing because here in San Antonio, I can't find a decent bagel anywhere.
Yeah, and I was
so excited about bagels.
It was actually, I was sniffing the bag.
It looked like he was huffing the bag.
I was huffing the bag of bagels. It was like someone. There's a silly movie that you talked about. I remember you asking me about it. Selma Hayek and Matthew Perry called Fools Rush In.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah, there's a scene in that movie where she brings them Gray's papaya hot dogs.
Yes.
And she has them shipped in from New York because that's where he's from to Mexico, right?
New Mexico.
New Mexico, yeah. But yeah, I thought about that when I saw it. I was like, bagels from Connecticut.
I think it's Las Vegas.
It is Las Vegas?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Stevie V says, did you ever get Jerry and his brother on the show, as I suggested? No, but we had a conversation about that, Stevie V. We did. We talked about that a little bit. I think Jerry's a little shy about it. Not shy. I shouldn't say shy. He had some reservations, for lack of a better word, about it. So I guess that, I don't know, maybe it'll happen. Maybe we'll find some way to do it so at least I can talk to them. Because their story is fantastic. And now his son is taking over the business, which is absolutely exciting to watch a young man in his 20s getting ready to take over a business, and a big business at that.
Yeah,
because
I have to brag on them as parents because their kids, like their son even, okay, I don't know if you mentioned this, but they travel on vacation with their parents. They're in their 20s, they've moved out, and they keep coming back home because they're so close to their parents. Like that says a lot about the people that raised you, right? But even their son is just, he's very quiet, but like, you can see the strength and the power in him. Yeah, they're just an amazing family. I'm looking at my kids going, God, you guys are terrible. Get a clue. My kids are the worst.
You'll get no
Hey.
You'll get no contention from me. Anyway, let's take a break. When we come back, I've got to talk to Rozan about this reparations thing. We'll play that audio. And, of course, we'll take your phone calls if you want to opine. Talk to Rozan if you'd like to. It's Ladies' Night on Reese on the Radio. Let's get to some weather and traffic with Jason Caterino, who's got your weather. And filling in for Mark Christopher is Tom O'Hanlon in the BPS Traffic Center.
Hi, this is Mike Allen, WTIC AM pilot and traffic reporter. Happy birthday, WTIC.
We're back. It's Reese on the Radio, hanging out with Rozan on the radio, my beautiful wife, and sometimes insecure and the person who puts bad thoughts into my head and influences me. Anyway, we're back, and we're talking about this video of the Representative Summer Lee when we get back, talking about reparations. My wife has very strong opinions on this, but I want to ask her another question associated with this based upon a study. I don't know if you remember we watched something close about this. I know I definitely watched it, but I'm not sure if I shared it with you. But there is a belief system that says that a majority of college-educated women, according to a poll, are the ones that are voting for a lot of this, reparations, DEI.
The awfuls.
Yeah. Well, but college-educated in general, like when they look at the numbers of college-educated women versus non-college-educated women, that the numbers are staggering when it comes to college-educated and non-educated men. And the overwhelming number is like in the upwards of 68% of educated women vote for things like DEI, vote for things like reparations, CRT. As a former liberal, I guess, and I say that begrudgingly because I think it's difficult. I think when I met you, you weren't necessarily a liberal. I thought that you had liberal leanings because I thought a lot of you were sort of common sense. It was obvious. I don't think that you were very active in that sense. I think you sort of had an awakening, if you will, which is weird, I might add, because a lot of the awakening were the attacks that you got when you just asked questions.
Right.
And so I want to talk to you a little bit about that as someone who sort of came from that camp of women. You're college educated. You went to school. I consider you smarter than me in many cases. So I want to get your sort of take on that a little bit. And also, if you want to opine, you can. The number is 860-522-WTIC, 860-522-9842. You could also be the last but not least caller of the day and win a dozen bagels. a month for 6 months, courtesy of Between Rounds, the Bagel Bakery and Sandwich Cafe. And Sharon, I don't think Sharon is listening now over at the South Windsor store, but I sent her a shout out. I hope that you get it as soon as possible and that Jerry is emailing it to you when he gets a chance, because, again, he's on vacation. I think they went to the zoo today. Anyway, so that's about it. We'll get to that in a little bit, but, of course, give us your comments in the chat room. You can go to ReeseOnTheRadio.com to join the chat room, and as well, call us at 860-522-WTIC.
What's up, everybody? You know who it is.
You know who it is.
You know who it is. It's Reese on the radio. Frederick Douglass of the 21st century.
It's WTIC News Talk 1080.
Now, I meant to actually transfer this video over so you can actually see it, but I just screwed up and realized that I don't have it on this screen, so I'm going to have to go back here. But let me play it for you. This is Summer Lee. She is a representative out of who cares? Anyways, she gave a speech on reparations. Now, you and I have actually had conversations about this, and I've always laughed at you because you've always managed to start talking about Native Americans when this comes up, because of course you are Native American, you have Native roots. So let me play this for you, and let me tell you what. Well, I'll just play it for you, and you just tell me what you think about it. Summer Lee, representative, U.S. Congress, talking about reparations and why they need to be paid.
So let's make it clear. There is a debt that does exist. This country has taken so much from black folks and has a debt it owes because for over 400 years into this very day, this country has stolen black labor, black lives, black futures. Industries were built and maintained through the subjugation of black people in this country, and wealth was built and maintained through the discriminatory policies that still plague us to this day. And to be clear, some people directly benefited from it or are direct beneficiaries of it. We have systems that create and perpetuate imbalances in our society, and you either benefit from it or you are disenfranchised by it. And black people continue to be disenfranchised and harmed by these systems.
Okay, so that's what Summer Lee has to say, and my response to that is look, this is a bullying tactic. This is, we don't have to lay out exactly what happened or what people have done. We just keep saying that it happened, and if you question it, you're a bigot or a racist or whatever the case is. And I've gone through it. But you, as a former liberal, and I'm using that term loosely, when you hear this about it, you go into a rage every time you hear this.
I'm very angry right now just listening to this. First of all, if we were currently living in a society where black people were still oppressed, and we've had this conversation, apply to a college or a job or for a loan as a white person. Just put down white as your ethnicity.
Correct.
You're not going to get, that's one. Number two. Yes, if we're going to pay reparations, let's look at those Native Americans that are still living on reservations with no electricity, no running water, no public education for the children. Let's look at those people first, because they were the first subjects of this slave trade by Europeans. Europeans were taking Native Americans back to England, back to Europe as early as 1492. Mm-hmm. The African slave trade with Europe did not start until 16...
They say 1618.
Okay.
1619, sorry.
Little less than 200-year difference. I'm just saying. That's number one. Number two, what about the Scottish people that were brought over here and forced into indentured servitude? What about the Chinese that after the Africans were given, freedom, the Chinese that were brought over to build the railroad system?
I don't think you get any argument here.
I don't... And I was looking on the news this morning, and it's going to take something like 16 trillion.
Yeah, I think the number was 14, but yeah,
no,
it could
was
be that.
14 2 years ago to 16 this year. 16 trillion with a TR. Now, this is where it's going to get a little problematic for some folks.
Okay.
Historically, when you give uneducated, uncultured, untrained, and unskilled people large quantities of money, what do they do with it? Let me just start by saying what has happened to every single person who's ever won the lottery that came from a trailer park or a nice little, I can't say that word.
Rural.
Yeah, area. All of those people.
9 times out of 10. And we've seen it even in the NFL and in sports leagues. Time and time again, people
broke.
End up
MC
broke.
Hammer.
Yeah.
Broke, right? You can't just throw swaths of money at people who have no idea how to manage it, how to handle it, or even, I mean, it's ridiculous. Now, if we really want to take care of people, who deserve it, people who have actually lived in difficulty, people who have actually sacrificed, people who are actually being, for lack of a better word, suppressed or brushed to the side by society, why don't we look at our veterans? Look at our veterans. 22 a day are unaliving themselves. After serving our country, we're given drugs, we're given medication, we're ignored. Mental health is ignored. You take us out of a system that we were trained to thrive in and completely abandon us to the civilian world. And you got people over here that are in Congress, I might add, making 6 figures, griping about, we're so oppressed. Excuse me, sweetheart, come live in my house. Come walk a day in my shoes and tell me how oppressed you are.
Well, I know that you have a
very strong opinion about this.
Yes. Rozan, although I'm sorry, folks, I didn't, again.
Real quick, I'm sorry. How do we quantify who gets reparations? I'm 11% African. Do I get reparations?
See, that's another, you know what? I didn't even bother to bring in that debate. And let me tell you why that's significant. And I'm glad that you brought it up. Because the argument was by Sunny Houston Houston recently. She was incredibly excited about the Pope having Haitian roots. So therefore, he's black, and there's this huge celebration. Bob, who is in our chat room, also started the conversation by, hey, the Pope is black. Wow. And again...
So am I.
Yeah, the debate is that you are black, and his breakdown was, if you have 1 drop of black blood in you, that makes you black.
So the Pope gets reparations,
too. So the Pope gets reparations. That's what I'm saying.
He's terribly oppressed as well, obviously.
And I don't understand that, because in a way, you are sort of creating a situation that you cannot possibly define when it comes to unsustainable.
Everybody in this country, almost everybody in this country has some African in them, particularly if you've been here long enough.
Right.
Right? There's been mixing and interchanging. You know, it's just who does get reparations and who doesn't.
I made the argument that you may have to, as they were suggesting in California, the DNA test.
That lady, the civil rights lady that found out she's actually the descendant of Mayflower.
Angela Davis.
Does she get reparations? She is one of the original slave owner descendants. Does she get reparations?
So, someone in the chat room earlier said that, Sunny Houston just found out that her family
were slave owners.
Yeah, her family were slave owners, so technically she would be on the hook. Matt in Bristol says, boy, she makes you sound liberal. I'm sorry.
It's common sense. It's not about my political stance. It makes sense.
Right. And look, you know what? I'm going to tell you what Matt just said here. I consider that high praise, because there's only one person who ever said that about me, and that was Russell Limbaugh. He said, man, this guy makes me sound liberal. I'm not going to let, I don't know if that was in the intent of Matt in Bristol, but that is high praise. And I appreciate you saying that, Matt, because when I met her, she sounded very Ivy League. I'm not going to lie. You were very...
I've never been on the side of reparations. I always thought it was really stupid. Who gets reparations? Like, you really have to break it down. Who does and who doesn't?
Yeah, and again, I think I made the case. I don't know if you heard me earlier when I was laying it out. It's that if you really believe it, and I guess I'm being a little simplistic, I'll admit that, with the whole mesothelioma or asbestos cases, Camp Lejeune. Like, usually you find the culprit and the victim in this case, and you can find a direct line to who did you wrong to who was wronged. And And in this argument that you're saying in this case where Summer Lee is saying is that these things have happened to black people across America.
Yes, but when did Summer Lee pick cotton last?
Again, that's what I'm saying. So you should be able to draw a line to the actions of the country directly to your lineage, like to your bloodline.
Not just the actions of the country. You have to have a perpetrator and a victim.
Indeed.
Who perpetrated slavery on, what's her name again?
Summer Lee.
Whatever. Who perpetrated slavery on her?
Mm-hmm.
Is she one of those, it's in my DNA, I was slave bound in my oppression and from my DNA? Prove it. Get a blood test and show me genetically on which chromosome and which line of your DNA is the traumatized gene, because
it's the point that I made, because I said, look, as far as litigation goes, like, no one shies from lawsuits in this country.
We are a very litigious country.
Very litigious.
Absolutely.
And if this were a matter of fact that could not be refuted, can't be disputed, then we should be able to go to a court of law and say, here, judge, here's our case, find in our favor. They should be able to do this without difficulty, but they won't.
Well, I will tell you that I did see a ruling from, who is it that holds the court? It's that holds the war crimes court.
Are you talking about Leavenworth?
No, like The Hague or...
Oh, The Hague, yeah.
Okay.
The Hague.
They actually found the United States guilty of war crimes against Native Americans about 7 or 8 years ago.
And, yeah, well, you know what?
But you never heard about it here in the United States. Nobody has once brought any gripes about the African slave trade here on this continent. Unfortunately, it happened globally.
Right.
And we have to think about the Barbary, or the
Barbary slaves, the Barbary slave trade. But you brought up something very interesting.
And if you're going to get reparations, call Africa, because they sold you. I'm sorry. That's...
Hey, you said something interesting, and I didn't think about this about the Native Americans. The Mohegan tribe, right? And, oh my God, the tribe in Long Island.
Their nations.
The nation. The Shinnecock Nation in Long Island, when they got that land in Long Island, they sued for it, right? And that's usually how it's done,
because
right?
it has to do with treaty violations.
Of course, but they went to court, right, and had that litigated and won. That's my point. It's like we have precedent here. So if indeed there is a case, you can make one. You should be able. The Shinnecock were able to draw a line between who did them wrong and who.
The difference is that they had a signed treaty,
right?
An actual document with the American government that was violated over and over and over again. And so there was documentation that said, hey, your nation was affected by this. We as an entity were wrong, and rather than continuing to violate a treaty, which does not have an expiration date, this is a treaty, right? It doesn't have an expiration date. We're in the wrong. We're going to make this whole. We're going to make you right. That is the process and the purpose of justice. Now, if you can trace your lineage all the way back to the original slave owner that purchased your ancestor, like you have that documentation. Now you can go and find the descendants of that slave owner.
Sure.
And you as an individual, if you so desire, should go sue that person. Let's see if it holds up in a court of law. But you can't expect the federal government to just willy-nilly hand... I mean, what if a guy just got here from Africa or DR or PR or... You know what I mean? Like, do they get money too because they got brown skin, like dark brown skin?
I think that's where.
lips?
Listen, I think that's exactly where the argument falls apart. It falls apart every time they bring it up. And look, we even had Keone, who was in the chat room. Once I brought up this thing about litigating it, immediately they jump off the conversation. They don't want any parts of it anymore. They're just like, okay, well, fine. It still doesn't mean that the America is not racist. I'm just like, okay, well, we're having a discussion about...
Prove it.
Yeah, exactly.
Prove it. Prove it's racist. Because my children are black. My children have never experienced racism. Oh, I'm lying. A little boy, believe it or not, I think he was like Salvadoran, darker complected than my son, called him the N-word on the school bus when he was in like 3rd grade. Outside of, and believe me, I handled that. Outside of that, my children have never experienced overt racism. there may be sideways comments, you know what they like to call microaggressions.
Yeah.
There might have been some of that going on. However, get a thicker skin.
Yeah.
And keep it pushing, because at the end of the day, nobody cares. Nobody cares what you look like. Nobody cares what color your skin is. Nobody cares. If I can't pronounce your name, I'm a little bit annoyed, but I'll just have you keep repeating it to me until I can say it. But at the end of the day, nobody owes you anything. You don't get a freaking reward because you showed up and you were born. You earn everything in this country. You have to.
Sometimes you make my job easier. This did not come from me. I'm just trying to, when people did, the people on the left start saying, it was like, you brainwashed. No, I did not.
No, you can't this is common sense. Even when I was a liberal, this makes sense. You cannot force somebody to do, I
got to stop you only for one reason, because one, we got to get out of here, but I'm going to say this. I think the reason why it was evident that you were going to stop being a liberal, as it were, was because of that common sense. It's like that's a perfect example, or you're an example of why the party left you and not the other way around.
Exactly.
Anyway, we got to get up out of here. Ladies' night, success again. I really, really enjoyed this, as I always do. We'll see you next week. Don't forget the Sunday show. As I always say, radio is free, so we thank you for paying attention. Remember to keep JC in your hearts and in your mind. Sean Patrick, we love you and we miss you. Remember that panic is not planning, so plan your work and work your plan. Me, I'm Reese on the radio. She is Rozan on the radio. Say goodbye, Rozan.
Goodbye, Rozan.
Have a good night and a pleasant tomorrow. We'll see you next time. Jason Caterina's got weather, and Tom O'Hanlon is in for Mark Christopher. Good night, folks.
I'm Tom O'Hanlon from the BPS Lawyers Traffic Center.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Side just from Route 2 to the bridge and crossing the river.
All right, have a
Hartford,
wonderful
you'll see
weekend.
some
Stay out of
slowdowns,
trouble.
but it's still
Yeah.
side of 84th.
Party time.
It's easier coming up through Park.
Yes, sir. See you Monday.
Not too unusual now.
Roll!
On 91 getting down into North
Bye,
Meadows, we're
Roland.
still seeing some occasional.
Bye.
291 looks pretty good.
All right. Okay, that's it for us today. Awesome show, you two. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Michael A. Stevie V says, I don't think you can sue the relatives. Just like if if a relative murdered someone, assuming that they are over 18, are accountable.
Exactly.
Michael B says, Rozan, that Africa comment was epic.
It's the truth.
Sokolowski says, I'm Slavic. Do I get reparations? My country was enslaved many times.
There you go.
Susan Moore says, I agree with Rozan. The Native Americans are very much ignored. Michael A. says, I figure out if the Pope is really black, see if he voted for Biden.
Well, he did have some stuff to say about Trump.
Oh, the ripple. Yeah, that's right. The ripple effect. Get it, Reese. Polly says Elizabeth Warren is 1% Native. With no reparations for her. Listen, I appreciate everybody. Obviously, Bobby, or Keone, I should say, he bounced out once this conversation got too real.
Of course she did.
That's horrible. We love you guys. We will see you next time. You guys have a wonderful weekend. And what are we doing on Saturday? Do we have anything planned?
Absolutely nothing.
Okay, so I don't even have to do the yard.
Nope.
So
you're welcome.
So we're going to really be just quiet, sitting at home. Maybe we'll watch old movies.
Snackies and The Wedding Singer.
Again?
Shaka Khan.
She loves that movie. I'm not going to lie. I love it too. I love you guys. Y'all be good. Stay out of trouble. All right. Be good to each other.